Is Abdurrahman Adam. I'm solving problem number 24.19 on Mastering Physics. It says the figure shows three Gaussian surfaces and the electric flux through each. And it asks us to find the charges of Q1, Q2, and Q3. Using Gauss's law, we know that the total flux, the flux of a Gaussian surface, is equal to the total charge enclosed over epsilon naught. Using this rule, we can find the charges Q1, Q2, and Q3 from the three flux given below. We know that the flux of surface A, we can see on here that the charges enclosed are Q1 and Q3, so we can write Q1 plus Q3, and that's the total charge enclosed over epsilon naught. And we can do the same for QB. B has Q1 and Q2, so Q1 plus Q2 over epsilon naught. And flux of surface C has Q2 and Q3. Now we just cancel out the epsilon naught over from all the equations. We end up with Q1 plus Q3 is equal to negative Q. Q1 plus Q2 is equal to 3Q. And Q2 plus Q3 is equal to negative 2Q. From this point, we can find the charges of each of these if we just substitute and figure out exactly how things are going to fit into it. So if we subtract Q2 on both sides, we have Q3 is equal to negative 2Q minus Q sub 2. If we plug that into the original equation, we have Q1 minus 2Q minus Q sub 2 is equal to minus Q. We add 2Q on both sides. We have 3Q, or we have positive Q, sorry. And we have Q1. And we subtract both sides with Q2. We add Q2 on both sides. We have Q1 is equal to Q plus Q sub 2. And if we plug that into the second equation, we have Q plus Q sub 2 plus Q sub 2 is equal to 3Q. We subtract Q on both sides, and we add this. We have 2Q is equal to 2Q. Divide by 2 on both sides. Q sub 2 is equal to Q, which is our first answer. We then find, using that, Q plus Q sub 1 is equal to minus Q, minus Q, minus Q. We find that, Q sub 2 is equal to Q, so that means Q sub 1 plus Q is equal to 3Q, and if we subtract Q on both sides, we have Q sub 1 is equal to 2Q, and if we put that into the first equation, 2Q plus Q sub 3 is equal to negative Q. We subtract 2Q on both sides. Q sub 3 is equal to negative 3Q. So we find that the first charge, Q sub 1, is equal to 2Q. Second charge is equal to just Q, or 1Q. And the third charge is equal to negative 3Q. We can plug them back into the equation to see that they make sense. And that's how you solve for 24.19.